أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ادع إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن إن ربك هو أعلم بمن ضل عن سبيله وهو أعلم بالمهتدين صدق الله العظيم. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, invite all to the way of your Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching, and argue with them in the ways that are best and most gracious. For thy Lord knoweth best who have strayed from his path and who receive guidance. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to another episode of Islam for Europeans. Please like and subscribe to the channel. And it's really sad for me to make this kind of video, and I want to get away from the kind of petty going back and forth, because it's very childish. Um, and people like to see a train wreck on social media. I mean, that's what gets you the likes. That's what gets you the people to subscribe. But in general, I think pretty much everyone's in agreement that Muslim Twitter and Muslim social media, for the most part, is a complete train wreck. And it does nothing but galvanize anti-Islam sentiment. It takes people away from the deen, and it just absolutely ruins any potential progress that you can make with, reaching out a hand or an olive branch to any particular non-Muslim group to try to find commonalities. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the recent tweet by Brother Dilly. And I don't mean to pick on Dilly, because I know there are other duat in the online Muslim scene, who act the same way. So this all started with, I think a Muslim woman who posted her pregnancy pic, and this started a great fervor on Muslim Twitter. And I don't want to make that the focus of this video, but one of these, I think a black non-Muslim woman, Ose Nasuka, said, Islam sounds miserable, can't lie, right? And then Dilly responds back with, okay, I'm going to read it verbatim. The life of an average non-Muslim woman in the West. Double-digit sexual partners before the age of 25. Not even pretense of modesty or chastity. Unmarried, no kids, with mummy and daddy issues. Living paycheck to paycheck. Microwave meals. Little to no extended family or faith community support. Fake friends for socializing and self-validation. A dog or a cat as company from the age of 40. Yeah, so anti-dawah to the extreme, and it's really sad because Dilly, I praise Dilly for doing these interviews with people on the extreme right. Even though you don't really need to interview these people, just for the basic fact that you're not debating the anti-Islam crowd, so people understand that there are people with varying viewpoints. But this is just beyond the pale. I mean, this is just, it's anti-dawah to the max. It deters Westerners from Islam. It's rude, it's crude, it's insulting, and it's also empirically inaccurate. I'm going to go into that right now. I'm looking at this study from MBG Relationships, mindbodygreen.com. Average number of sexual partners for women and men, what's normal. Now, this article was written in 2023, but it uses our CDC data, right? So a 2014 study of CDC data from 2006 to 2010 found these numbers. Ages 15 to 19. I'm looking specifically at women here. 72% of women and 71% of men had 0 or 1 partner, and 17% of women and 17% of men had 2 to 4 partners. Ages 20 to 24, looking specifically women now. Among women, 35% had 0 or 1 partner, 29% had 2 or 4 partners, 23% had 5 to 9 partners, and 13% had 10 plus partners. Okay, and ages 25 to 29, among women, 25% had 0 or 1 partner, 31% had 2 to 4 partners, 24% had 5 to 9 partners, and 21% had 10 plus partners. So, to say that double-digit sexual partners before the age of 25 as the average for a non-Muslim woman is empirically inaccurate. So before the age of 25, ages 20 to 24, so 13% of non-Muslim women have had 10 plus partners. So it's definitely not the average. The highest median score among the four different age groups, the four different numbers, is 35%. 29 had 0 or 1 partner, and 29% had 2 to 4 partners. So yeah, and women on average have fewer sexual partners than men, and that's across the board. Um, so yeah, and it's just I like to have an inferiority complex and say that Islam is better because we have a conservative lifestyle, and we follow the teachings of our Lord, and this is the correct path. There's nothing wrong with that. You want to invite people to Islam because it offers something different, because it offers you faith, community support, a direct connection with one's creator, and staying away from what our creator has prohibited. But if you look at any convert to Islam or any group that has a significant number of people who are not Muslim, they would never, ever use this kind of language as a blanket description of an entire non-Muslim group. Would you ever say this at a dawah booth, to someone's face? Would you ever say this at an open house? Would you ever say this when you're giving an interview with a non-Muslim person, right? Like, why get into these types of discussions whatsoever? When you're a Muslim with a facing role and you're trying to invite people to Islam, and you're talking in such a crude manner as to make blanket aspersions to groups who, let's admit, there is a percentage of people who have these kind of promiscuous lifestyles, but it's not a norm. And these are numbers that are trending downwards. So Generation Z, Gen Alpha, the younger generations are actually having less sex. So this study was from took data from 2006 to 2010. So those numbers are actually getting smaller, right? So, and when you look at, say, for example, the African American community in the United States, what used to be the largest Muslim community population in the States, um, they were on the forefront giving dawah to their people, and to the United States in general. But they also knew that many of their own family members had these types of lifestyles where it was really promiscuous, drug abuse, alcohol abuse. But you never see Black Muslims use this type of language. Why? Well, obviously it's incredibly off-putting, and it's just going to deter Westerners, not just their own people, but just non-Muslims in general, away from Islam, right? So, and it just goes to show that, like, when you don't have a non-Muslim family, we don't feel like you're part of the greater non-Muslim society. There's no recourse for you to, use these type of statements, because at the end of the day, you're going to go home to your Muslim family, and you're not going to face any consequences. Whereas for us, our entire families are not Muslim, and even if they have, a neutral to positive image of Islam, by just blanket insulting their society without offering any type of alternative or any type of nuance whatsoever, you're going to drive them away, right? And we want our families to convert to Islam, but if this is all they're seeing, I mean, that's just going to just deter them. And these Muslim social figures on social media, they're going to attract the absolute dregs of society. The most Islamophobic people you've ever heard are, they troll these people on the internet. The most horrible anti-Islam figures you can think of, they spend their days arguing with people like Dili, like Daniel Hakikaju, like Muhammad Hijab. And, what happens is that a lot of Muslims who follow these accounts, who don't interact with non-Muslim societies very often, they get this skewed vision in their head that the vast majority of Westerners think this way. Which is categorically false. People who are neutral, who don't care about this stuff, who may have a positive image towards Islam, they're not going to debate you on Twitter. They're not going to be representative of the population that you're reaching, right? And by posting this stuff, like I said before, all you're doing is just drawing people from the anti-Islam right and the dissident right, the Mark Khalek crowd, all together. Even though they may agree with the fact that promiscuous lifestyle is not a good thing, the fact that you're using this kind of blanket statements, and also um, just with your language, making it sound like you don't feel like you're a part of Western society. All you're going to do is just draw them together, and they're just going to unite and keep bashing Islam, and they're going to take a snippet of those tweets and basically use it as a recruiting poster to say, what, Muslims don't belong in Europe or the West. So, there are many other ways that you can, address this. And you don't have to even interview people on the far right. I mean, there are many non-Muslims who are neutral, who may have a positive image of Islam, who don't use this type of inflammatory language, who have enormous audiences on social media. Like I said before that, Muslim Twitter's just a cesspool. But there's still potential to reach out to different groups and try to give dawah. I mean, look at all the different non-Muslim channels that have interviewed people over the conflict in the Middle East, right? Andrew Napolitano, Katie Halper, Scott Ritter, Douglas McGregor. I have not seen any Muslims reach out and try to talk to these people or sit down for like an interview. It doesn't have to be about religion. And the Dean show is an exception. Eddie interviewed interviewed Keith Woods, so that's something positive. But at the same time, when you do like a positive interview like this, that like actually brings people together, people don't even want to make reaction videos. All the interviews that Dilly did with the right, no one made reaction videos to that. Why? Because it doesn't get views. It's not inflammatory. It's not a train wreck. You're not going to get the likes and the subscribes. So yeah, I mean, like I said, I stand by my statements. It's one step forward and 10 steps back. A lot of these online UK duats and in the States as well, they want to be edgy, they want to talk to Muslim youth, they want to be like a particular role model, and at the same time they want to bring people into Islam. So they'll see someone who's interested in Islam, say, oh, mashallah, let's get you on for an interview, and then at the same time be unbelievably insulting to their family, their community, their friends, where if they were to talk this way, it would totally deter them from Islam. So yeah, I mean, it's really disappointing to see. And on top of that, it's disappointing to see now in 2024. I could understand maybe in 2003 or in 2004 at the height of the Iraq War, where Islamophobia and anti-Islam sentiment was at an absolute zenith. People would have like Osama bin Laden urinal cakes. But now the game has changed. I mean, the support for Islam and support for Palestine has never been higher in the West. So, these type of inflammatory statements, they're not in the Sunnah, and it's 20 years too late, and you're driving people really away from Islam. And even though you may say something that's factually correct, it just gives the overall impression that even though Muslims can be friendly and give you a hug when they see you at the mosque, things of that nature, at the end of the day, still many Muslims have a lot of anger, a lot of fear and resentment towards people in the West, and many Westerners have a lot of anger, a lot of fear, and a lot of resentment towards Muslims. And I'm speaking to the converts on this group, and the not just the Euro converts, but converts from any background. Like, you have to recognize that this is a reality, and you can't just think that the Muslim community is going to be there to mitigate the relationship with their non-Muslim family and friends, because they want nothing to do with one another. And if you were to put them in the same room together and have them talk about stuff, the results could be absolutely disastrous. So we need to stick together. I mean, and really, like, what also grinds my gears is that some of the people who agree with these, like blanket statements, inflammatory statements, are some converts themselves. They're trying to fit in. A lot of these people have, really bad relationships with their family. Maybe their family hates Muslims, so they end up acting not just as extreme, but even more extreme in their statements. Like being very inflammatory, very angry. And these are young, fresh converts, and we've seen it before. They end up completely crashing. It's just very, very unhealthy for them. Um, and by them speaking that way, the converts themselves, it gives the rest of the Muslims in the Muslim community, they think, okay, well, converts are doing it, so that means we can do it now. They've given us the green light, let's, call these women whores and bitches and whatnot. It's just totally toxic. And, like, where is this in the Sunnah? Uh, when Prophet Muhammad SAW went to Ta'if, like, and gave dawah, and they were throwing stones at him until his feet were bleeding, right? At any point did he insult their women? You know, um, like Mecca, like women used to dance naked around the Kaaba. They would have multiple sexual partners, and a shaman would spin around and point to a certain man and say, "This man is the father," right? The vast majority of the efforts to invite people to Islam was about Tawheed. It was about the attributes of Allah. It was about Salah. It was about these things, the teachings of Islam. Almost never, very, very, very rarely would you, I don't even think ever, would Prophet Muhammad SAW or the Sahaba have blanket insulting statements for the entire society. And, one, because it's impractical, but B, they belong to that society. They were converts themselves, right? They had these emotional, intimate connections, with the non-Muslims, even the pagan Arabs, right? So it's not in our tradition. And even if you want to act that way, even if you think, this is us expressing our izzah, um, at the end of the day, it's just what are the benefits? How is it going to get you anywhere? At the very least, provide an alternative. Say, okay, these are the things that non-Muslims are doing. This is wrong. This is what provides Islam an alternative. We're offering Islam as a way of life. But really, like, even though, like, you're inviting people to Islam, giving them the action to take their shahada, honestly, like, it's they're going to be left all on their own, because they're going to have to deal with their non-Muslim family and friends, and the rest of the Muslim community is either saying all this incendiary, offensive stuff on social media, or they're liking it and agreeing with it and fostering an environment where it says it's okay to, um, insult women's sexual history and things like that. Okay, and really, and on a final note, what was I going to say? I think I drew a blank here. I had a point, but I wanted to make it. Oh, yes. So the last point I wanted to talk about is the internationalization of the dawah, right? So we talked about open houses, we've talked about dawah booths, in the previous videos. Those are efforts that are local, right? You invite people to your local community from your city. You have a dawah booth. You're from that city. You've talked to people in that city. You know the slang. You know the lingo. There's a connection with these people, right? But what social media has done is that it's created this kind of internationalized effort of dawah, right? Where the vast majority of the online dawah sphere is from one particular country, right? And you can say, well, that's because they're the best at giving dawah. Well, the situation in that country might be totally different from the situation in Canada. It might be totally different from the situation in the United States. It may be totally different from the situation in New Zealand, right? So even if you put all these things aside and say it's okay for like the online duat to take this aggressive tone and blanket statements, even though there are many non-Muslims who don't think this way, um, the youth are going to look at this and go, yeah, you know what, like, this is how, like, we're marginalized youth, we're all being attacked, Islam is hated in the West, we all should make, we need to make hijrah, it's hopeless, the non-Muslims hate is here, you know by and large, that's not the situation in Canada. And when you have Muslim youth watching this stuff, it's all based in one particular country, right? So that's not the situation in Canada. Um, and one could say, well, I mean, like, look at the success of Islam and how Islam is growing in the UK. Well, it's growing in the United States too. In fact, it's growing even faster. I mean, 8% of the Muslim population of the UK is white. 20% of the U.S. Muslim population is white, right? So it's more than double. And Islam is growing fast in Canada as well. So what's going on in one country is not going to be the same as what's going on in another country. You're going to be in a totally different situation, and there's going to be less of a connection when you're taking your advice from people who are living in completely different situations, right? Yeah. So again, not trying to bash, in particular the UK. I'm not even trying to like focus all my attention on Billy. This is a systemic problem in the online Dawah scene, and it's toxic. It's unbelievably toxic. I would never show any of my non-Muslim family members any of these tweets. It's embarrassing that I even have to say it and present it on this video, but that's the reality, and it really after seeing so much promise, in the last 3 interviews, the fact that we're just getting right back to where we started, it's just really really disappointing to see. So inshallah, like I said, Allah guides who He wills, and there are great dawah people out there who are doing good efforts, who aren't that famous. Don't give up. Stay positive. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward us for our humble efforts, and Islam will be we will be successful. And I think with our endeavor, we're going to be successful while at the same time, like allowing the people who've converted to Islam to keep everything that's good and beautiful in their culture and the culture of their ancestors, without the degenerate stuff. Inshallah. I mean, so yeah, that's all my time for the day. Before I go, I just want to make a dua for the horrible things that's going on for our brothers and sisters in the Holy Land. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep them safe, and for those who passed away, grant them Jannah Firdaus. And it's got to end. May Allah, have this bloodshed come to an end, because it's absolutely horrible. I know I don't make videos on the conflict in the Middle East, and the reason for that is because I don't want to do that for likes. I mean, there are other Muslim accounts and other non-Muslim accounts that do a much better job at reporting, at providing analysis, like looking at it more from a religious perspective. That's not my forte, and if I were to attempt to do that, I don't think I'd do that good of a job. And on top of that, like I said before, I don't want to do that for likes. I just I don't feel comfortable. So at the end of every video, I make a dua for what's going on in Philistine and across the Muslim world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite all of our hearts upon Islam. Okay, that's my time for the day. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.